Grace is not about moving slowly. It is about moving with presence, allowing each moment to have the space it needs to reveal its gifts. And that is the thought for today. Welcome to 7 Good Minutes. I'm Clyde Lee Dennis. Thanks for joining me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. In today's episode of 7 Good Minutes, we talk about grace being the opposite of hurry and finding peace in presence. Enjoy. In a world that seems to worship speed, that celebrates the hustle and glorifies the rush, there's a profound truth that often gets lost in the noise. Grace is the opposite of hurry. Today we're exploring what it means to move through life with grace instead of haste, and how this simple shift can transform not just how you feel, but how you experience every moment of your existence. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why grace and hurry cannot coexist, and you'll have practical ways to choose grace over speed in your daily life, creating more peace, presence, and authentic connection with yourself and others. Think about the last time you felt truly graceful. Maybe it was during a quiet morning with your coffee, a gentle conversation with someone you love, or a moment when you move slowly and deliberately through a simple task. Notice how different that felt from the times when you've been rushing, heart racing, mind scattered, moving through life like you're being chased by something you can't even name. Grace has a different quality entirely. Grace is unhurried presence. It's the ability to move through your day with intention rather than urgency, with awareness rather than anxiety. When you operate from grace, you're not trying to get somewhere else or be someone else. You're fully present with what is, right here, right now. Hurry, on the other hand, is always about escaping the present moment. When we hurry, we're essentially saying that where we are right now isn't good enough, that we need to get to the next thing, the next place, the next achievement before we can finally relax and be at peace. But here's the paradox. That peace we're rushing toward can only be found in the present moment we're trying to escape. Grace teaches us that how we do something is often more important than what we do. You can wash dishes with grace or with hurry. You can have a conversation with grace or with hurry. You can walk down the street, answer an email, or even handle a crisis with grace or with hurry. The external circumstances don't determine your internal state. You do. When you choose grace over hurry, you're not necessarily moving slower, though sometimes you might be. You're moving with presence. You're bringing your full attention to whatever you're doing instead of letting your mind race ahead to the next thing on your list. You're breathing fully instead of holding your breath. You're allowing space for things to unfold naturally instead of forcing them to happen on your timeline. This doesn't mean being passive or lacking urgency when it's truly needed. There are times when quick action is necessary, but even in those moments, you can choose to act from a place of centered presence, rather than frantic energy. You can respond, rather than react. You can be decisive, without being desperate. Grace also means giving yourself permission to take up space and time. In our hurried culture, we often feel guilty for moving slowly, for taking breaks, for not constantly producing or achieving. But grace reminds us that your worth isn't measured by your speed or your productivity. You have inherent value simply by being here, and you deserve to move through life at a pace that honors your humanity. When you practice grace instead of hurry, you begin to notice things you've been missing. You see the way light falls across your kitchen table. You hear the genuine laughter in your friend's voice. You feel the texture of your own experience instead of rushing past it towards some imagined future satisfaction. Grace is also deeply connected to trust. When you hurry, you're operating from a place of fear that there isn't enough time, that you're not doing enough, that you'll miss out on something important. But grace operates from trust. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be, that things will unfold as they should, that there's enough time for what truly matters. This doesn't mean being naive about deadlines or responsibilities. It means approaching them from a different internal state. It means recognizing that your peace of mind is not worth sacrificing for the illusion of control that hurry provides. The beautiful thing about choosing grace is that it's contagious. When you move through the world with unhurried presence, you give others permission to slow down too. You become a reminder that there's another way to live, another way to be. Your grace becomes a gift not just to yourself, but to everyone whose life you touch. So today, notice when you feel the urge to hurry. Pause and ask yourself, is this urgency real, or is it just habit? Can I bring grace to this moment instead? Can I trust that moving with presence will serve me better than moving with panic? Remember, grace is always available to you. In any moment, you can choose to breathe deeply, slow down your internal pace, and meet whatever you're facing with calm, centered presence. Grace is the opposite of hurry, and it's also the pathway to a life of deeper peace, connection, and joy. That does it for today's episode of 7 Good Minutes. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on the platform you're listening on. Until next time, let's be civil to one another out there. Thanks for listening.